friends, Chubby Meeple here with another Kickstarter preview for you, and today we're going to take a look at Supertall. This is from designer Nat Levan. It's going to be published by Button Shy Games. This is the next in the line of their wallet games that are frequently on Kickstarter. This one is there now, seeking your help in funding. Let's jump to the table. I'll give you a brief overview of how to play Supertall, and then I'll come back here and give you my thoughts. Supertall plays either 2 or 3 players in about 20 minutes and is designed for ages 8 and up. If you're playing a 3-player game, you're going to have a setup similar to what you see on the table here. Player 1 building 2 skyscrapers, well, each player building 2 skyscrapers apiece, side by side, so that their skyscrapers are adjacent to one another, and the skyscraper on this end is considered adjacent to this opponent's skyscraper over here. So this center skyscraper is adjacent to this one, which belongs to the same player. We'll say player 1, so player 1's left skyscraper is adjacent to their right skyscraper and is also adjacent to player 2's right skyscraper. Player 1's right skyscraper is also adjacent to player 3's left skyscraper. So each skyscraper is going to have an adjacency to 2 other skyscrapers being controlled by players, and is also considered to be adjacent to the city hall, which will be in the center of the board, or the center of the table as the game goes on. If playing with 2 players, the layout of the board is a little bit different. Your center card here is still the City Hall card. Each player is going to be building 3 skyscrapers. 2 skyscrapers that are side by side, as well as a third skyscraper that is back a little bit further. This rear skyscraper is considered adjacent to both of the other players' skyscrapers. So in this case, this back skyscraper for player number 1 is considered adjacent to both of their front skyscrapers, but it is not adjacent to the City Hall. Also, this particular skyscraper is considered to be adjacent to this player's skyscraper, as well as this skyscraper being adjacent to here. However, none of player 1's skyscrapers are adjacent to the back skyscraper for player 2, and the same is true for player 2. None of their skyscrapers are adjacent to player 1's skyscraper. These back skyscrapers are only adjacent to the skyscrapers that are in front of it. Let's discuss some gameplay and show you how all of this works. Supertall consists of a deck of 18 cards, referred to as plan cards. Each plan card has different information on it, obviously. These are multi-use cards, and you'll see that as we do the gameplay. But each card will consist of a plan type, either entertainment, natural, residential, or business, as well as a tax assessment ranging from $0 to $5. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and $5 cards out here now. There is one card that's worth $0 that has no ability on it. Each card also has a rezone ability, as I spoke to. All of the 1s will do the same thing. All of the 2s will do the same thing, so on and so forth. And there's also a scoring method printed on each card. All of the entertainment cards score the same way, all the business cards score the same way, and so on. So I want to take a look, before we dive into gameplay, I wanted to break down the anatomy of each of these cards and show you what the abilities of each tax assessment value are, as well as what the scoring, how each of these cards score, so that when we get to gameplay, it kind of makes sense as to how I'm playing some of the cards. First, I want to take a look at the entertainment cards, which are these blue cards represented by the mask symbols. Entertainment, when you're scoring the card, if all I have in my skyscraper, and this will make sense as we do, more sense as we do the gameplay, if all I have in my skyscraper are entertainment cards, I will score 5 points for that skyscraper. If I have a second color, so if I have entertainment and business, and that's it, I get 0 points for that skyscraper. If I have 2 of another color, so if I happen to have entertainment and business and natural in the same skyscraper, that skyscraper will be worth 3 points. And if I happen to have a skyscraper that has all 4 of the different colors in it, I will actually score 8 points for that skyscraper. Now it's important to note that when you're scoring your skyscrapers, you will score your skyscraper based on the type of plan that is on the top of the skyscraper itself. So if my top floor of my skyscraper is an entertainment, I will score using this method. However, if the top floor of my skyscraper is a natural symbol, or this green symbol, I'm going to score differently. I'm going to be at that point looking to see what the same values. I'm going to be looking for matching values on the floors of my skyscraper. So if I have a pair, every pair of matching numbers that I have in a single skyscraper will be worth 2 points, or will be worth 3 points, apologies. So every pair will be worth 3 points. If I happen to have a triplet, so if I have 3 of the same number in the same skyscraper, that skyscraper will be worth 7 points. Next, we have the residential building. If my top floor is a residential, I'm going to get 2 points for every floor in my skyscraper. So basically for every card that I have that makes up the skyscraper, I'm going to score 2 points. However, I have to be careful, because if my skyscraper, my residential skyscraper, is adjacent to a business skyscraper, I'm actually going to lose 2 points. So there are some adjacency scoring there as well. The business skyscraper, I'm going to score 1 point for every business floor that I have, and I'm going to get 3 points for every entertainment floor that is in the skyscraper. However, I will lose a point if my business skyscraper is adjacent to any natural skyscrapers. So those are the four ways that I can score. I can score based on the different types of colors in my skyscraper. I can go based on the number of values that match. I can go by just the number of cards in the skyscraper, how tall the skyscraper is, and then my business will score based on business and entertainment. And then there are, like I said, there are adjacency rules that can either earn or lose points for you as well. When looking at the dollar values, each dollar value on the card has an ability that is tied to it. All of the $1 cards in the deck have the ability to move a top floor card to an adjacent tower. So I can either move one of my own cards to an adjacent tower, or I could move a card around on my opponent and cause my opponent to lose points there. Any of the $2 cards give me the ability to move a bottom floor to an adjacent tower. So I can pull the bottom floor of a tower and move it to the bottom of an adjacent tower. I still have to follow placement rules. We'll discuss that in a second. All of the $3 cards allow me to swap any 2 top floors. So I can swap some top floors there, which may mess up scoring for my opponent, and I may find that I created a better scoring opportunity for myself. The $4 cards let me return any top floor. That means I can take any floor off the top of any skyscraper and return it to the bottom of one of the draw decks. And the number 5, the $5 tax assessment cards, their ability allow me to rearrange floors in any tower. So that allows me to rearrange the floors in any tower. And well, that's important because it would allow me to rearrange City Hall. And City Hall, in terms of scoring, City Hall determines what type of plan won't score. So let's say my opponent had 3 towers that all had residential tops on them. So they were just going straight 2 points for every floor that they had. So they just built some tall towers, top with residential. I could play a 5 for its ability, rearrange City Hall, and put a residential plan on top of City Hall, voiding all residential plans worth 0 points. So then they would score nothing effectively. And we'll see that more in the gameplay. So now that you have an idea of the different plan types and the different tax values and their abilities, let's take a look at how the game actually plays. Setting up a game of Supertall is incredibly simple. I'm going to take the 18 card deck, we're going to shuffle them up. So do a quick shuffle here. Then we're going to deal 1 card to each player. And for the purposes of this example, I'm going to do a 2-player game, just so we have less cards on the table, less cards to worry about showing off. Each player, we're going to deal 1 card to each player. We're also going to deal 1 face-down card that represents City Hall. Each player will then take a look at the card that was drawn. So this particular player has a $3 business class card. They can play it back here, or they can play on one of the front skyscrapers. We're just going to play in this front. The second player will then take a card and play here. And they're going to play over here because if this particular skyscraper ends up with a residential type as the top floor, it actually gets -2 points for adjacent business. So they wouldn't want to put here because these skyscrapers are considered to be adjacent, and it would cost points. So we're going to put this over here. Once players place their cards, then we reveal City Hall. City Hall is important because City Hall actually determines what types of plans are not going to be scored at the end of the game. So in this case, if the game were to end here, City Hall determines that, or is dictating that residential type plans will not score. So in this case, if this particular skyscraper, or even this one, were to end with a residential type plan on top, that entire skyscraper would not score because of City Hall. We then take the remaining cards and pull these down here, just so we have a little bit of room. We're then going to take the remaining cards and we're going to divide these into 3 piles that are fairly equal. They don't have to be perfect. They're going to get divided into 3 piles. And these form draw piles that will be used throughout the course of the game. The players will be able to draw from. Now that that's been set up, we can talk about player turns. On a player's turn, a player will draw a card from any of the 3 available draw piles, and then they have 3 choices. So we're just going to take this player here will be our player 1. You're going to draw the top card off the middle pile and take a look at that card. This card gets revealed when it's drawn, so all players can see it. So in this case, we have drawn a $5 business plan card. It would allow me to rearrange floors if I chose to use the ability. It also will score 1 point for every business and 3 points for every entertainment floor in the skyscraper, and I'll lose a point if per adjacent natural skyscraper. So I have 3 choices. Now that I've drawn this card, I have 3 choices. I can either submit the design, meaning that I'm going to play this card on top of any skyscraper, even the open available business site, building sites. So I could throw this down here, I could put it back here, I could toss it over one of my opponent's sites as well. So like, for example, I know this residential card gets -2 if it's next to a business skyscraper. So I could toss that over there. Now the chances of the skyscraper actually ending with business on top are pretty rare at this point, this early stage of the game. One placement stipulation is if I'm going to build this plan on top of a skyscraper, the tax assessment value on the card that I'm playing, in this case 5, has to be higher or equal to the dollar amount on the card it's being played on top of. In this case, 5 is the highest amount, so it will be always equal to or higher if you have a $5 card, which means you could play it on top of any skyscraper. So that is one option I have. I can submit design by placing this card on any skyscraper, including City Hall. Or not including City Hall. Option 2 is to scrap plans, placing this card on top of City Hall. And the reason you would want to do that is because at the end of the game, whatever plan type is on top of City Hall is the plan type that will score 0 points. So at the end of the game, if this were the top card on City Hall, any skyscrapers that had a top floor of the business symbol, that entire skyscraper would not score. So it's a nice way, especially toward the end of the game, to really mess up your opponent and take some points away from them. The third option I have is to rezone, which is where I would be choosing to use this card for its ability. So I would take this card, I would place it face down on the bottom of any one of the 3 draw piles, and then I would activate the ability. In this case, it would let me rearrange the floors in any tower. Well, there's only 3 cards, there's not really a tower. So I want to take this business plan, and I'm actually going to play it here in my own... we'll play it on top of this. So we'll play it on top. When placing on top of another skyscraper and building up, you're going to place it so that you see the type and the tax amount dollar of the floor below it, and it also builds a bit of a skyscraper picture to it. Once I've taken my turn, I draw the card and I choose one of the 3 options, it then becomes my opponent's turn. So my opponent can draw from any card or any stack. They've drawn a $5 residential. This card is worth, for skyscrapers that end with a residential on top, it's worth 2 points for every floor and is worth -2 points for every adjacent business skyscraper. We're going to take this $5 and we're going to place it on top of the $2 floor here. I also would have had the ability to do the rearrange floors and rearrange the skyscraper. But however, whenever you rearrange or you're placing cards on a skyscraper, you have to always follow the rule that the top cards always have to be higher than the lower amount. So just kind of keep that in mind. Now that my opponent's taken a turn, I can draw the top card of any deck and take a turn as well. And this is going to continue until there are no cards left for the next player to draw. The game will end at that point if there are no cards left for someone to draw. If players did not take an equal number of turns, and we're going to put this over here. If players did not take an equal number of turns, then the player who got fewer turns, any player who got fewer turns, will gain an extra point toward their design just for having not taken an extra turn. So let's go. I'm going to go ahead and play through a game here, and then when we get to the end of the game scoring, I will run down the scoring and how all of that works. Okay, I've played through a game. We have completed our... there are no cards left, and in the game that I went through, this player started, and this player actually took the last turn, which means this player didn't get the same amount of turns. This player is actually going to score an extra point for that, so we'll keep that 1 point in mind. The next thing we need to do is we need to take a look at the total value of basically the total, what they call attraction value. So the total amount of dollars essentially that you have, that player is going to score 2 points. So I have a total of 8, 16, 19 total on this side. This player over here has a total of 6, 11, 13, 14, 16, 20, 24. So this player is going to score an additional 2 points. So right out of the gate, this player has 3 points. This player has none to begin with. We then look at the top of City Hall. City Hall is showing entertainment as the plan type. So any skyscrapers that have an entertainment plan type on top will score no points. So for example, this skyscraper will score nothing because it matches the type of plan on top of City Hall. Now, because of the scoring of entertainment, this skyscraper would have scored nothing anyway, so it really doesn't benefit this player that much to have this skyscraper negated, because it would have been worth 0 points anyway, because it has 2 different types of plans in there. Now we look at scoring. I'll look at this player first. First of all, we have a residential type. The residential scores 2 points per floor, so I get 2 points for this skyscraper, but it's worth -2 points for an adjacent type of business. So in this type, I've got a business type skyscraper that's adjacent to this residence, so the 2 points I scored for this skyscraper, I lost because it's adjacent here. So no points there. This skyscraper, my business skyscraper, is going to score me 1 point for every business floor and 3 points for every entertainment floor, and I'll lose a point for every natural skyscraper that's adjacent. I have 2 business floors, giving 1 point each. This skyscraper is worth 2 points. And then we come to this last skyscraper with a residential type on top. Residential type means I'm going to score 2 points for every floor, so 2, 4, 6, and I'm going to lose points for being adjacent to, I'm going to lose 2 points for each adjacent skyscraper. So I'm going to lose 2 points for being adjacent to this business skyscraper. So I had 2, 4, 6, that's now worth 4 points. This is worth a total of 2. This player has a total of 6 points, which is not a great score. Looking over here at this player, we know this skyscraper is worth nothing. This player already has 3 points, so they really only have to score 4 points between their other 2 skyscrapers in order to win the game. We look at the first skyscraper they have here. Their rooftop garden, which is a natural type, is the top floor, and that means that they will score 3 points for every pair of the same value, or 7 points if they happen to have a triplet. In this case, they have 2 floors that are $4 each, so they're going to score 3 points. So that skyscraper has been scored. They also gain 2 points for every adjacent residential. So they're also going to gain 2 points because these skyscrapers are adjacent to one another. So there's another 2 points there. So this is a 5-point skyscraper. Down here, we have another natural skyscraper. So they're going to score 2 points, or 3 points, because they have 2 $2 floors. So they're going to score a total of 3 points. And this skyscraper is not adjacent to a residential, so they don't get the extra 2 points there. But this skyscraper is still worth 3 points. They scored 5 for this one for a total of 8, plus they had 3 points from having the most attraction value as well as having taken 1 less turn. So our final score is 11 points for this player, and I believe it was 6 points for this player. So 11-6 is the game. If there had been a tie, the tie would be broken based on the single skyscraper with the most value. So, for example, here's a skyscraper with 11. This skyscraper's got 10. This skyscraper here has a total of 10 as well. Or no, I take that back, a total of 8. So this skyscraper here, if there had been a tie, this player would actually have won because this skyscraper has a value of 11, which is the highest on the board. And that is how you play Supertall. So that's Supertall. Great little game. Again, 18 cards. You could almost call it a micro game. I really don't like using that term. I really like the fact they call it a wallet game because it really does. It fits in your wallet. Even comes with a nice little wallet holder that holds everything. 18 card game. There's a great depth of strategy in this, though. I was really surprised by it, and because first of all, you have cards that are multi-use, so I can use them to build skyscrapers. I can use them to throw them in City Hall and kind of void plans that my opponent has, or I can use them for actions, which I think is very cool. So I have some decisions to make, and there's a lot of interplay between the cards, so you have to make sure that while this card may be best to play here on, on this skyscraper, the one next to it kind of voids those points out. So you really have to watch the adjacency rules and make sure that you're not messing things up for yourself. I've had plenty of games where I've played where the end of the game rolled around and I threw a card just because I didn't need it on my skyscraper. So I tossed a card into City Hall, and then when it was time for final scoring, I realized the card I played on City Hall voided out one of the skyscrapers I was working on, and it kind of messed things up for me. So you really have to watch that. I also really like how the game plays differently and feels very different when you're playing at 2 players than it does at 3. There's some different dynamics to it because while you're playing the game, in 2 players, you have 2 skyscrapers that are considered adjacent to City Hall and are adjacent to the skyscraper across from them, and then you have that 3rd skyscraper that's kind of on its own that your opponent really can't affect. So you have to, your opponent really can't affect that back skyscraper. So it's kind of safe, and you just have to be careful to not mess it up yourself. However, in the 3-player game, because each of your skyscrapers is affected by the skyscrapers that your opponents have, you really have to pay attention to what your opponents are doing, and it's pretty easy to, or not necessarily easy, but there's some strategy in playing things on top of your skyscraper that may, reflect positively on your 2, but negatively on something that an opponent has that's adjacent. So I really like that aspect as well. I also really like the fact that it's portable. It's a portable game. It plays in 15-20 minutes. You're done with a game. You can shuffle them back up. It's only 18 cards, so it's easy to play again, and play through a few rounds, in fact. Really fun game, a lot more strategy in it than you would expect just hearing that it's an 18-card game, but it's the same kind of quality that we've come to expect from Button Shy games as far as design. They're small, portable, stick it in your pocket, stick it in your bag, and go, and have some good strategy as opposed to, pulling out and playing solitaire or something like that. So this is Supertall, again, from Button Shy Games, designer Nat Levan. If it looks like something interested you, jump down to the Kickstarter page. I'll drop a link to the page in the description of this video, and you can give them your backing and your funding and help them make this game a reality. Until next time, keep gaming, friends.